All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It is time for the Dance Studio Network podcast. We are past hiatus and we are ready to jump back into the season of life and dance and art. So join me today, your host, Jonathan Chatham, and a special guest who is with us today.
I am Lizzy Braun.
Lizzy Braun. Now, Lizzy Braun, we got a lot of history, but we got to jump into it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Go quickly. So kind of start with me, where it all first began. When did you see the Dance Studio Network?
Well, it actually was kind of my mom who I was kind of getting into dance. I had just switched out of gymnastics and she knew I had like this new interest and she was like, oh, you know, I just saw this new studio open up. Why don't we like go and check it out? So we were running errands and we walked in and got a tour and she was like, what do you think? And from there I jumped into classes. And it was Allen Dance Studio.
All
and
right.
That was my new home.
Was that 2013?
Yeah, it was like maybe a month after it had just opened. Like I think there's still like a new sign on the door.
Like the coming soon?
Yeah. And so she was like just really excited about this new opportunity. I was really excited. So I jumped into one class and little did I know that I would be sitting here 10 years later.
Yeah. No, it's really amazing. I mean, I've had the privilege of kind of watching you grow, but today we want to kind of do maybe a two-part. First part is kind of like where the story began, and then obviously what we're doing now together, actively working together. So, how old were you when you first started dance?
I think it was the summer. I was 13 turning 14 that summer, and now I'm 24. So it's been
a quick minute.
Yeah, last season was like my 10th season. We went through like the 10th recital, and it was like a full like circle moment. It was really crazy to like think about how much life has gone into the studio and all the family that I've built and all of that too. It's really crazy like how much has changed in 10 years.
Yeah. Well, and it shows you how powerful like a connection within your community is. And that's something obviously we really aim for with our studios from Frisco, Allen, and McKinney, is to help people plug into their community with people that they're going to do life with, their peers.
Yeah.
So, all right. So jumping into dance, first and foremost, what's your favorite style? Tell the audience.
Lyrical and contemporary.
Ooh,
all of my students know it's my favorite, but I do love jazz. I did all the styles.
Yeah.
Really. I tried them all out. But yeah, lyrical contemporary is my favorite for sure.
Okay. So where do you draw on that inspiration for when you dance in that?
I think it really stems from like the music and kind of creating like a story. I feel like it's fun to make that connection in like a lyrical contemporary piece. Everyone says like lyrical and contemporary can be really sad, but I like to think of like the happy stories, find like kind of some different connections that you can pull on through your personal life. And I just feel like dancers can really connect with like a storyline through like either the lyrics of the song or just the music itself. So I think that's why I kind of was always...
You drew to it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, that's awesome. I think, when kids find that exploration, that's really the whole point, like discover the artist within. That's our whole trademark and line of, philosophy. We want you to discover organically what it is you love to do. And when you love it, you'll work hard at it. So, coming in as a teenager, what were some of the challenges kind of, coming to dance than the average, kid who starts at like 4 or 5 years old?
Yeah, it was different. I had done gymnastics. I started that when I was 4. So I started that. And then when I moved to Texas, I was 10 and I heard about drill team. And that was kind of the big thing because Texas is all about their drill teams. So that is actually where kind of my dance interest started. I originally did audition for my high school drill team when I was in middle school. You do that before you get into high school, and I didn't make the team. So that was definitely a hard thing, but I also knew I was still new in it. I'd only been dancing for like a year at that point and just kind of doing some small things here and there. So that was definitely like kind of a challenge to like when you're just starting out, kind of get that flow.
That. Yeah. I was gonna say, let's kind of peel into that a little bit. You know, what kind of goes through your mind when you don't get what you think you deserve or what you hope for? Like, how did you recalibrate?
It was definitely kind of a struggle at first. Obviously, I was sad. I wanted to be on a team with all my friends and at school, and it's such this like cool thing that like you've learned about and hear about. And so I was kind of devastated at first. Obviously, you kind of take that like emotional reaction at first. But then I kind of used that as like, okay, well, obviously I'm not ready at this point. And then it was only a few months later that I found Allen Dance Studio. So it was like, we always say like everything happens for a reason. And if I feel like if I didn't have that, then maybe I wouldn't have found the studio. And so from there, that's when I was like, okay, I need to try new things. I need to try more classes. So I started with jazz because that's what I knew. And then, you know, in the summer I added a contemporary class and I was taking 2 classes. And then from there I was like, no, I need more. And I kind of like used it as like more of a push for myself rather than just being like, okay, well, I didn't get it. It's time to give up.
Kind of like the victim mindset.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I'm not good enough. And
yeah.
And I think, you know, teaching the next generation of dancers and young students, like, use your setbacks as a catalyst to work harder, not as a reason to just like throw in the towel or quit or give up, because life is meant to be challenging and the best things in life are really difficult. And, you know, with dance, it's kind of like that breakthrough, right? And like at first it can be challenging or it can be overwhelming or you didn't get something that you wanted. But if you commit to the work, commit to the process will change you. Not the other way around.
You never know what's going to come up. Like I had never even thought about competitive dance. And then I found the studio, you know, I started just taking classes. And then from there, I learned what competitive dance was. And I was like, well, maybe this is kind of the pathway I was supposed to take instead of the drill team pathway. So it's like you can have those moments of sadness and disappointment for a little bit, but then you kind of have to move on and look for the next thing.
So like have your feels.
Yeah,
but get on with it.
Yeah, but use that to motivate and inspire the next thing that comes your way or the next thing that you find or the next thing you want to work towards.
That's awesome. What was some kind of like the milestones you felt as a dancer kind of growing? Like what was something that kind of stands out in your mind?
I think it was kind of when we started competing and kind of getting into it, I started kind of seeing my progression and how I was advancing the more classes I got into. I know we always say like, take more. Like if you want to improve, like you got to be there, you got to commit. And it is really true. Like, I think it was probably my junior year. I had my solo that I was competing and I had just learned so much that year. I feel like I had the most growth. I had really kind of found like my passion and, you know, I found my people and I felt really proud of everything that I was accomplishing. And I kind of took that into my senior year. And I feel like my junior into my senior year, I had like the most like growth.
Cool.
As a person and as a dancer.
So it kind of merged together.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the vehicle that expresses your growth, right? Like the challenges of a competition or a class or growing, that's your like young development as you grow towards, you know, adulthood.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really vital in dance is remembering, you know, how it fits. It's all integral to like how you develop as a person. Like if you handle challenges really well or setbacks really well, like that's going to like the trajectory on that is going to be wonderful for you in life. But if like every time something doesn't go your way, you know, you lose it and you're done. I feel like that's setting yourself up to fail later.
Yeah.
And, you know, with dance, this is a safe place. You got your peers, you got your buddies, you got your mentors, you got your directors, people that are like pouring into you. So it's neat to see, again, having that like kind of that seasoned understanding now, obviously growing from a student out. But, you know, not everybody gets to have that hindsight, you know, when you're in it.
Yeah.
So
you definitely don't see it when you're in it, but then like now looking back at it, like I can recognize like how much there was growth and how much there was, because you know you're so hard on yourself when you're young and like we're our own worst critic like with everything. And so like now looking back at it, like I can see those successes, I can see where I was pushing myself and like growing so much, which is amazing.
So like what's advice you would give to yourself, you know, 10 years ago? You know, I'll make it more pointed to like, what would you say, like, you know, don't do? And like, what would you say, like, go and do?
I would say not to be so like self-conscious. I know that's such a hard thing and it's a big thing, but it's, you can be, I mean, when you're obviously going to compare to other people, you're in a room and you're staring at yourself in a mirror, like it's really hard, but like, just go for it no matter what, especially in the classroom. That's one thing I tell the dancers now is like, this is the place to make your mistakes and not to be so concerned with what everyone else in the room is thinking about you. Like if you're going to make a mistake, do it in a safe place in the studio, like you said. And then that way you can feel successful on the stage or when you're performing, competing, whatever it is. So I'd say like to kind of just let everything go, like just have fun in the classroom and like, don't be afraid to make those mistakes. Like you don't have to be like the perfect one in the room because it's a classroom. Like we're learning, we're growing. So it's like,
it's hard though. Cause you know, nowadays, you know, did social media affect you when you were younger?
I was kind of on like the end of it. Like it wasn't as
mainstream. Like,
like
TikTok and
Instagram was just kind of getting started. TikTok wasn't a thing. Like it was a little bit different when I was growing up. Obviously I saw it. You see the stuff on like Dance Moms and the TV and so you think you can dance. So like you could see it. It's not as much as it is now. Like it's not as like instant, and it's not as like, I feel like it's.
But you didn't feel like that? You didn't have to face that challenge?
I feel like a little bit. Obviously you see it and you want to be like, you know, the best person ever. Like you want to do all those crazy things that people are doing. Cool. And so I do think it had an impact. I think now there is a different challenge with that, with more access to it at a younger age and stuff like that as well.
That's great. So what else would you say, you know, you feel helps make a strong dancer now? Like looking back, was it just jazz or was it ballet? Like what would you say to the dancer? Like, hey, these are the classes that I'd recommend you get serious about.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely ballet and jazz. I feel like those are very strong, like in the technique and very strong in like the foundations. And then you can move into other things like lyrical and contemporary, where there is a lot of ballet and jazz in that. But it's definitely about giving 100% in the classroom, in the studio and stuff like that. Not just like going in and, okay, it's another class. Like I do this every week, but like going in and like practicing as hard as you can every single time, because that's the only way you're going to get better.
Well, and that touches kind of on that point. Like you need to practice like you're performing, not waiting to perform.
Yeah.
Right.
You need to give it all in the studio when you're just practicing. So that way, when you get on stage, you know, you'll be able to handle it. Well, and it's not like, when I get on stage, like I know
I'll move faster, or I'll move more aggressive, or I'll move more expressively. And like, again, like it's just habits. Like all you're doing is you're creating habits for your body to remember when it hears the music, how it's supposed to perform. And so how can you expect it to perform the way you never practiced it to do so? And I think that's one thing I always see with students. Like, I'm like, man, I know you love the stage, but you need to love the classroom like so much more. You know,
and you need to come in like ready to learn, ready to just take in whatever you can from that one class, even if it's a 45-minute class or you're there all night. Like you need to be in it the whole time. Yeah,
well, that's good. I mean, that's kind of the challenge, is people kind of see the end goal and they want to rush to it, or you know, you forget the journey along the way.
Yeah.
So it's hard. I mean, I get it. And now social media pressure, all these different things kids are seeing. You know, we want to make sure we're telling them the right things, helping them be equipped in the right way. But I think, you know, believing in yourself is a big part. How did you kind of deal with some of the self-doubts that you might have faced along the way?
I think it's, you know, having a confidence in yourself, but also surrounding yourself in like with good teachers that can like recognize and help you through those moments. Like I was fortunate to grow up with some great teachers that are now friends and coworkers, which is so amazing. And it really does help to have a good support system. And when they recognize that you're down or you're getting frustrated or something like that, kind of talking you and like giving you the support that you need to succeed, and like recognizing those feelings that you're having. And so having the support of, you know, teachers and fellow students and dancers is really important. It's like you said in the beginning, like it is a family and it takes like a lot of people to kind of build you up and get you to where you are. And so I definitely felt that like as I was growing, having the support is really important.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's the culture. You know, culture shapes, you know, behavior. You know, not typically the other way around. Yeah. And, you know, when the culture is positive and supportive, you remove any of that toxic ideology of like, I'm greater, I'm better, you know, I'm comparing myself to everybody. And like, I really hate to see that in this industry. You know, people don't want to talk about it because it's uncomfortable.
But it happens.
But it happens. And then they're like, oh yeah, it's normal. I'm like, no, that's not normal. That's a culture that's been normalized, that we have to say enough and no more. You know, like why are we letting these young girls and boys grow up in studios that think that that's okay to act that way towards each other or towards the teacher?
How it's supposed to be. Like it's not how it's supposed to be.
And you know, like again, a lot of that gets covered up because, oh, they're a great student or they're great that way. And I refuse to let any of our studios operate that way. You know, there's no entitlement, there's no privilege. It's the only thing you're privileged to is to work hard and to grow yourself. But, you know, creating a positive culture, obviously it's neat to see it with somebody who I watched grow up and go through the whole system. But, you know, it's something I think needs to be on the discussion table with parents and their students. Like you should be talking to your kids about like, hey, how's your studio like room? Like how's the nature of your class? Because if you surround yourself with those people and they're toxic to you and treat you poorly, you're going to have side effects. They're going to show up. It's a matter of time.
Yeah.
I don't care how amazing you are. I don't care what place you go to. It's going to show up. And conversely, when you have teachers and fellow peers and students believing in you, when you go through your downy dumps, down and outs and those moments, those people will elevate you and lift you back to that place where they believe in you. And that's where I fell in love with the art, is just the ability to like encapsulate that whole experience together, to show like teacher, student, owners, admin, everybody all working together to bring this experience to what you see, feel, and hear day in and day out. So I love it. Well, we could go on and on, but this is just a little taste, a little part one of dancing with Miss Lizzy, as we call her, Elizabeth. But we've had the privilege of doing this for quite some time. So, any last words, advice, whether students, parents, what would you like to say for the dance side?
For the dance side, I'd just say try everything and give the most you can at all times. Have fun and like remember that's what it's all about. It's about doing something that you're passionate about and enjoying, and don't push yourself to the point where you're not enjoying it anymore. Just have fun and remember why you started in the first place.
I love it. All right. Well, we'll pause there and we'll be back with part 2 here shortly. You all can stay tuned for the next episode that will drop. We're going to jump into part 2 with Miss Lizzy. Until then, I'm your host, Jonathan Chatham. Thanks for joining us at the Dance Studio Network podcast. See you soon.